Hi, this is the Virginia Group Project. My name is Helen.
I'm Sunny.
I'm Daisy.
I'm Alexa.
And I'm Josh.
Right, so for our introduction, Virginia, located on the East Coast, was founded in 1607 as the British colony, but then was admitted as the 10th state in 1788. It is home to about 8.8 million residents and is governed by Glenn Youngkin. The state has a diverse population, gender demographics 50.58% female and 49.42% male, with the racial demographics including white, 59% male, or Black and African Americans, 18.4%, Asian, 6.8%, two races excluding other, and three or more races, 3.6%, and other including Hispanics 3.52. Cities such as Alexandria, Virginia Beach, Richmond, and Fairfax ranked among the most diverse in the nation. The poverty rate is around 10.2%, and the state includes a large veteran population, a highly educated workforce, and over 100 languages spoken in Northern Virginia schools.
So today I'm going to be examining how Virginia's production culture creates powerful synergy between makers and communities through three distinct artifacts. The first being the Virginia wine industry, which generates 6.41 billion in economic activity and employs over 45,000 people. Almost all of the Virginia wineries are very small. They're family-owned operations relying on more direct sales and rather than the distribution networks. This kind of creates more of an intimate producer-consumer relationships, with millennials now driving the demand growth, which is a dramatic shift from the wine's traditional older demographic. The second being the Smithfield ham, which represents legally protected artisan production dating back to 1779. Virginia law mandates that these hams must be processed within Smithfield's town limits and using their traditional methods in dry curing. And they're also passed through generations. And local shops like the Folks Run grocery sells around 300 and 400 ham sandwiches every Friday, creating weekly community gathering traditions. And then the third being the Newport News shipbuilding, which employs over 25,000 people as the sole builder of U.S. nuclear aircraft carriers. With third, fourth, fifth generation shipbuilders, it generates 10.9 billion in state economic impact and invests 110 million annually in the workforce training. So a little bit more about how these artifacts demonstrate four key dimensions of production community synergy. So direct engagement happens through wine tastings, tours, and ham shop smokehouse demonstrations, as well as the shipyard heritage experiences. And they create meaningful connections just beyond simple transactions. The geographic identity is legally protected, again, with the law for the genuine Smith ham, as well as the Newport News shipbuilding that's literally built on Hilton Village. The generational knowledge transfer occurs through family networks, first being the generation shipbuilders pass technical expertise more of a father to son style. And then again, with the economic integration, that creates more of a ripple effect, first being the wine industry driving rural development, the ham shop serving as a community gathering space, and the shipbuilding creating a multiplier effect across 79,000 total jobs statewide. So the conclusion is very clear. These artifacts show production as more of a technical manufacturing. It's more of a cultural practice embedded in community life and identity.
So moving on to consumption. Thank you, Daisy. Virginia is a very diverse state as far as landscapes, rich historic sites. So there's many different ways to consume Virginia. The first artifact I have is Jamestown, Virginia. So Jamestown is the first English colony, which was established in 1607. Virginia is also home to the Battle of Yorktown, which is known for ending the American Revolution. So there's many historical events that happened within Virginia. So my next artifact is going to be Appalachia. So Virginia, it does lie on the Appalachian Mountains. So the mountain culture plays a major part in the consumption in this area, such as the bluegrass music. It was from this area. Coal mining history, outdoor recreation. Many people love to go and visit Virginia for, I believe there's 3 national parks. So they go and participate in scenic drives, hiking, local crafts, and cultural festivals here. Last but not least is coastal Virginia. So coastal Virginia, mainly more so Virginia Beach. So Virginia Beach can be found in the southern east part of Virginia. It's where Chesapeake Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean. So here at Virginia Beach, it's one of the most visited places in Virginia. Millions of tourists come here each and every year for its festivals, events, restaurants, hotels, and just ocean recreation centered vacation. So here I included this picture of the famous Neptune statue because every year, every September, they go and have a festival surrounded and centered by the Neptune statue, celebrating pretty much just life. They have sandcastle tournaments, volleyball tournaments, a bunch of clean fun. And there's also another one that's, I believe it's called Something in the Water. It's called Something in the Water Festival by Pharrell Williams. So Pharrell Williams, he's also the guy that sings Happy, which we'll learn about in a little bit.
Thanks, Josh. So now we'll be talking about how the state of Virginia is represented in communications, such as like media and everyday talk. So one example is Colonial Williamsburg in historical America. Virginia is often shown as the birthplace of America. Democracy, sorry. We see this a lot in media, especially through Colonial Williamsburg, which is basically treated like a time machine to historical America. So when you think of Virginia And its representation, think of colonial history and reenactments that make it feel foundational to the US. So here is a reenactment of Colonial Williamsburg. The next example is Northern Virginia and the government slash political identity of it. So it's often shown as a wealthy, diverse, and politically active area because it's so close to DC. People sometimes joke that it's not the real Virginia because it's more connected to national politics. So that's another key image of the state. It's very government focused. And then here is the Arlington skyline and then the Pentagon area. And then finally, Virginia Beach has a whole nother vibe. And this is another example of music and pop culture from Virginia Beach. It's known for its music scene. Think Pharrell Williams, Missy Elliott, and Timbaland. The media often shows it as a creative hub for like hip hop, R&B. Basically, Virginia Beach is represented as the center of culture and musical identity. So here's a picture of Virginia Beach and one of the concerts it has hosted.
Thank you, Sunny. So identity describes how people understand who they are based on factors such as race, class, gender, sexuality, and region. It shapes communities, creates a sense of belonging, express their differences, and communicate their values. In Virginia, identity is influenced by its long history, racial dynamics, regional divides, etc. These elements guide how Virginians represent themselves and build their collective identity. So the first example is Black identity and HBCU culture in Virginia. Universities like Hampton, Norfolk State, Virginia Union, and Virginia State, they play a major role in shaping Black identity, and it was founded during segregation. These schools became cultural anchors for them, supporting Black academic success, pride, community traditions, and leadership. And through their campus life, homecomings, marching bands, HBCU strengthens both personality and collective identity while honoring Virginia's Black history and resilience. Another example is regional identity divide between Northern and Southern Virginia. So Northern Virginia, which is close to Washington, D.C., is very diverse, globally connected, and associated with high-income education levels and more progressive values. In contrast, Southern, Western, and Eastern regions reflect rural traditions, working-class culture, and more conservative values. These differences influence how Virginians view themselves, communicate, and express regional pride, showing how geography creates multiple identities within one state. The last example is LGBTQ identity in Richmond's cultural arts and scenes. So Richmond, which is the capital, has grown one of the most LGBTQ inclusive cities in the South. It shapes identity statewide through visibility, advocacy, and cultural expression. It hosts the largest Pride festivals, such as like Equality Virginia and Side by Side, which supports LGBTQ plus adults and youth. There's been public murals, drag performances, queer arts spaces, and inclusive theaters that also contribute to Richmond's collective identity as a progressive, creative, and community-centered city. The vibrant culture challenges traditional Southern gender and sexuality norms, and it provides these individuals with spaces to form strong individual and collective identities.
So moving on to regulation, Virginia, as we said, is very diverse. There's beaches, there's national parks, there's government. So the first one we're going to be looking at is environmental regulation. So Virginia strictly regulates fishing, water quality, wetlands. It has to do with its location with the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. So here in this artifact, you can see the Virginia community cleaning up the coast partnered with DEQ. So DEQ is the Department of Environmental Quality. So Virginia does care much about its environment. So next up is VDOT, or Virginia Department of Transportation. So as we were talking about earlier, Virginia does border Washington. So there's traffic in and out year round in Northern Virginia, and VDOT is responsible for regulating the roads, highways, and tunnels. In this artifact, you can see traffic on Interstate 95 in Northern Virginia, which is the very heavily trafficked year round, which is VDOT's responsibility to be looking at. So next up, last but not least, is the Virginia Capitol Police. So Capitol Police are different from normal police. General police generally work with the public and public policy, but Capitol Police are mainly focused around government and law enforcement backgrounds, such as like government officials, employees, buildings. They work with all of that. What makes the Virginia Capitol Police so significant is that they root back all the way to 1618, and Jamestown was founded in 1607. So this police force is almost as old as Jamestown.
Thank you, Josh. So for pop culture and the analysis between them, I chose one video, There's No Bathroom for Me Here, from the movie Hidden Figures. The context of the scene, it shows Virginia's important role in the early space programming by highlighting NASA's Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia. And it reminds the audience of like the scientific major breakthroughs, like the calculations for the space race that happened in Virginia and also other states in the United States. But within a segregated system and time that shaped the experiences of Black workers and women especially. It reinforces America's scientific progress and contributes made in Virginia. So the moment of the scene powerfully illustrates how segregation was functioned and shaped daily in Virginia. Katherine Johnson was running across a campus to use a colored restroom, and shows how racial discrimination was reinforced through building signs and workplace rules, and also communicates how identity belonging were also controlled in Jim Crow era Virginia. So the scene also reflects the resilience of Black women in Virginia. Her determination reflects the strength of Virginia's Black communities who pushed through systematic barriers to contribute to science and progress. And it also demonstrates the strength of Virginia's Black residents that help push the state and the country towards progress. My second example is Happy by Pharrell Williams. So the video reflects the creativity of Virginia's beach music scene, as Sunny and Josh talked about, and shows Pharrell, an artist from Virginia, influenced global pop culture, and his success demonstrates that Virginia was not just part of Southern history, it is the center of modern artistic innovation. So the upbeat tone of the song mirrors the multicultural identity of coastal Virginia, like Virginia Beach, for example, is very diverse, artistic, and community focused, as seen in the video and also other videos around it. Happy became a unifying song across Virginia and the entire United States, commonly played at school events, fairs, festivals, and community gatherings. Its positive message brings people together, making a shared cultural moment and experience that reflects Virginia's value of joy, unity, and connection.
Okay, now I'll be talking about the central analysis of Virginia and how living in the state engages all the human senses. So first, how the state looks. It's like Virginia is a blend of old and new. You got historic colonial buildings and like the beautiful mountain landscapes. So this is one of the artifacts I showed here. Here's the Blue Ridge Parkway scenic overlook, and then here's the historic colonial buildings. Okay, so now how the Virginia sounds. So sound-wise, think of like the waves that Virginia mixed with like local hip hop and R&B concerts. So that's exactly the artifacts I put here. Okay, so what the state smells like, and in terms of smell, imagine a combo of like salty ocean air from the coast and then also fresh pines from the mountains and forest. Here's the images I put, the Virginia Boardwalk and the forest trails in Virginia. And then how taste-wise, Virginia is all about the Chesapeake Bay seafood, which are the oysters, and it's mixed with Southern classics like barbecue biscuits. Here are the two images, the oysters and the Virginia style barbecue. And then finally, how the state feels. It can feel like a warm, humid beach in the sand in the summer or a cool mountain air in the mountains. So here are my two artifacts, the Virginia sand and the mountains.
Virginia has historically empowered white men, elites who are educated, while disempowering the enslaved Black population and women. First, Virginia's treatment of women only suffocated them. The Virginia Museum of History and Culture talks about how the state of Virginia opposed women's suffrage. An amendment to give women the right to vote was proposed in 1919. And even though the Virginia Equal Suffrage League strongly supported the amendment, the Virginia General Assembly remained immovable. 40 out of 50 states ratified the 19th Amendment, but the state of Virginia was immovable and stubborn until they ratified it in 1952. This is about Virginia's treatment of the Black population. Virginia had the largest industry at that time, which was slave trade. In 1860, a third of the Virginian population were slaves, amounting to 550,000 enslaved Black people. Virginia did not see the human dignity in Black Americans and instead tore their families apart and stripped them of any rights. Even Charles Dickens, who went to Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, the capital, explained it as gloom and dejection in this horrible situation. Virginia has changed. Virginia empowers women and advocates for diversity in their state. I was particularly encouraged by two organizations, Virginia Women's Foundation and Virginia Women Leaders, which is the world's largest association of professional women with 43,000 members. Doing research on the state of Virginia was fascinating after the semester studying diversity. In the readings Who We Be, Segregation and Racism, that was the undercurrent perpetuated by the lack of representation of Black Americans. There was little representation, and even the representation that was present was dehumanizing, like the minstrelsies discussed in Who We Be. I can apply these to my research on the state of Virginia, noticing that the lack of representation, segregation, and racism during this time was originated in the dehumanization of the Black population in slavery during the slave trade. The state history in Virginia perpetuated what we see in civil rights history discussed in Who We Be.
Of Virginia's cultural value to the United States, Virginia holds a contradictory position in American culture. It's both the birthplace of American ideals and a reminder of the nation's deepest failures. Virginia shaped American democracy as the home to 8 presidents and the Constitution's architect. And Virginia's forces complex historical engagement through colonial Williamsburg, Monticello, and Civil War battlefields. However, Virginia's unresolved contradictions damage U.S. culture. Virginia's resistance to confronting Confederate legacy fuels national racial dysfunction, and the regional inequality mirrors national polarization, as discussed earlier, wealthy, diverse, liberal Northern Virginia versus economically struggling white conservative rural Virginia. And then Virginia's greatest contribution is embodying American contradiction. So completely that it forces honest examination, and this duality mirrors America's fractured identity, demanding Americans hold complexity rather than choosing blind patriotism. Thank you.
These are our citations. Thank you so much.